seeing how much money has been printed by the Fed, basically, uh, inflation is going to happen, and it's going to be reflected on the food. The government's only cracked down on the healthy foods because meat, like basically whole foods, are what go the highest in price. They're going to promote junk food, ultra processed food like crazy. So if you're out there promoting the carnivore diet, I'm pretty sure you're going to be one of the first people to get censored in the future. Once inflation hits the fan, the government's going to tie down as much as they can. Like YouTube can take down all the carnivore content one day if they decided, and you're gone. Same thing with Twitter, Facebook, everywhere, and you just shut out of the world like that. So Nostr is like this fantastic alternative.
Hello, friends. Today, we have a very wonderful episode planned for you. It's not going to be as focused, I have a feeling, as the previous episodes. We were just talking about before recording here with Dr. Fernando Morales. There are so many directions we could take this conversation, and it's going to be probably a mess in the most beautiful way possible. We've got Carnivore, the carnivore doctor. We've got Bitcoin, which played a part in both of our journeys to carnivore. We have Nostr, which is one that most people don't really intertwine with, like the doctor, medical side, the health side, but I think we might be able to change that. So Dr. Fernando Morales, thank you so much for joining me, sir.
It's a pleasure, Ben. Thank you for inviting me over to talk about my story. I'm guessing you want me to begin with exactly that, my story.
Let's do it. Let's give it the backstory. I'm ready.
Okay, so I guess first it begins with the carnivore diet. I was on a sabbatical, let's say in Latvia, actually. So I had a lot of free time, and let's say med school really oversaturates people's brains, and at least in my case. And I kind of have this loss of passion for learning. But after the sabbatical, I rediscovered my passion for learning and hearing podcasts and all type of content. And I first heard about the carnivore diet hearing Jordan Peterson. So at the beginning, it sounded like very extreme, like something that someone with only extreme autoimmune conditions could try to do to control their disease. So I didn't give it a second thought. I just like brushed it aside. And but at the same time, I started learning about Austrian economics. Thanks to Seyfedin Ammous, a very important author in the Bitcoin and Austrian economics space. And he would have people on his podcast, Professor Benjamin Bickman, Dr. Sean Baker. He had Dr. Ken Berry recently. But in the past, I heard these carnivore docs and talking about it. And they started talking in a way that made sense to me. Like, wait, carnivore diet is just, it starts to make good sense. But I don't know, I just didn't try to experiment with that initially when I was in Latvia. And then we came back to Mexico, me and my wife and I. And my wife had many, not many health problems, but she had some pretty extreme migraines, basically. Incapacitating. Like she would spend 2-3 days a week just locked in her bedroom, curtains closed, everything. She couldn't do anything, completely incapacitated. And we would go with neurologists, and they would give her medicine to control the pain, and yeah, it would like effectively control the pain. But then she started having side effects due to the medication, like terrible wrist pain. She couldn't hold a cell phone in her hands. She was falling into depression. It was terrible, and no one could help us, like no doctor. And I was talking to her about the carnivore diet. Like I would talk to her about Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter, and how she managed to heal like extreme health conditions. So one night, my wife woke me up. She was crying, and she said, let's try the carnivore diet. Like she was desperate. Out of desperation, she said, let's just try this and see what happens. And by that time, I was already sold on the idea, Seyfedin Ammous, basically. And I was like, okay, sure, let's do it. And that's exactly what we did. And in a matter of days, like she also suspended all her meds because she was tired of that. So with suspension of meds and with carnivore diet, like her migraines, the intensity and the frequency started to diminish. And then she just got her life back. I remember how she described it. She says it's like seeing life in color again. Like everything was just black and gray. And she felt amazing. And that made me feel like, oh my God, this is more than just eating differently. It's healing. And personally, I also suffer from irritable bowel syndrome since I was a child. And I remember when I came across irritable bowel syndrome in my textbook in medicine, and I was like, oh my God, finally, I can learn about this and find the cure. And I remember reading it, and then causes idiopathic, which means we have no idea what causes this. Like just take these
Eat
meds
more
when you have some.
fiber, more salad,
Yeah,
more fruits, more vegetables.
exactly. So just eat all this crap, which makes it worse. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess it's just life. Like I'm not the only person who suffers this. I guess it's just the human condition. And with carnivore diet, it just disappeared like overnight. Like basically, well, not overnight, but like within a week or two, like gone. Like the bloating, the pain, the constipation, diarrhea disappeared. So I felt also my energy just increased. I lost weight. I lost up to 20 kilos. I used to weigh like 93 kilos. I'm currently around 73 more or less. That gave me so much vitality that I even got into jujitsu. Something I was like postponing because everyone imagines the doctor as a tired, chronically stressed guy. I think it's mainly because you're just malnourished. Like Dr. Anthony Chafee talks about all the time. He can just keep on going all day, working. And he even does like YouTube lives after being on call, like for like who knows how many hours. Like that's just the power of the carnivore diet, and it's life changing. It's truly life changing. So honestly, I have to thank, I guess, Jordan Peterson for introducing the idea to me, and then Dr. Safety Namus for like bringing it home with all his podcasts. And honestly, I've seen that a lot of Bitcoiners become carnivores, or carnivores get into Bitcoin. It's like intertwined in some very strange way, but I guess it's more about being autonomous and doing your own research, like not trusting the authorities, because nutrition is centralized right now, like basically the guidelines and all that stuff. Money, it's also centralized. So once you figure out that something's wrong with either through the diet or through money, you're going to question yourself, what else is messed up? And that's what leads you through other rabbit holes. So I think that's why they're intertwined more than anything else, to be honest.
Absolutely agree. And there's so many threads there. I just took notes on the side that I can't wait to pull on. But first, I'd like to hear the more recent side where you've started bringing this into your own medical practice and seen results yourself, because you're a doctor in Chihuahua, Mexico, as I found from my research. And you're actually testing this out. Well, I mean, maybe testing is not the right word because it's already been tested on so many people, but you brought it into your practice and started introducing it as an option for your patients and seeing some pretty crazy results. Could you give us a little bit of a summary of what you've seen from that front?
Yeah, sure. So like I began my private practice last year, 2023 in February. So I had complete control of everything because I tried doing the carnivore thing before that when I was employed. Well, not employed. I was like, they would pay me to back up other doctors who couldn't work or for whatever reason. I would try to talk to the patients about statins, like, okay, it's not the best medicine to use. You should consider like weaning off of that and try some more meat. But that never went anywhere because obviously I can't go against the institution. Like since I'm also a backup doctor there, when the other doctor would come back to work, he would like receive these patients like all confused, because one doctor tells them to do this, and then I come along and say, you know what, do completely the opposite thing. So that wasn't going to work for me. So luckily, I opened my private practice. I had complete control of what I was doing. And it's one of the first things I started doing. Like I said, okay, this worked for me. This worked for my wife. When we experiment personally, we've seen it. We've been heard other doctors talk about how this works. I know I'm not killing them. So with that said, I began implementing. First of all, you really have to learn like some psychology. Like you have to like, because everyone's been taught like meat's going to kill you, and plants, fruits, vegetables, that's the best thing. So you really have to learn how to like talk around like these ideas to people, because everyone's different as well. And I found it kind of not that difficult. Why? Because in northern Mexico, it's in our culture. We're los norteños, carnes asadas, like we love having barbecues every weekend. Everyone gets together, makes some meat on the grill. So meat is part of our culture, red meat especially. So it's actually not that difficult. Some people say, oh, I'm already a carnivore. This diet sounds fantastic. So what I found out is that I had to convince them that they're not going to die in 3 months. Because I always tell them, like, people spend years smoking, getting drugged, alcohol, all these things for years, and they don't drop dead. 3 months of changing your diet to meat, which is a whole food basically, is not going to kill you. So like that's like getting the foot in the door. Like let them try it out. You're not going to die. There's very little to lose and a lot to gain. And I discovered that those who are most motivated are the ones who are the most how to put it screwed up. I don't know. The ones who
Desperate, like
feel
you said, like your wife was in
yes,
desperation mode. And this is where we are in the bell curve right now. We're at that very first sliver where the only people that are really doing this are people that are like just out of options, and they're just like, I'll try anything to get better right now. Or the even smaller minority, which is like my where I would consider myself, was I'm just like curious about everything and like really self experimental. I didn't have any really bad issues. I just heard Bitcoiners, including Saifedean, as you mentioned. He was also one that I just kept hearing talk about the carnivore diet, and just understanding that these people are right about so many other things. Like they really just broke so many of my paradigms about money. And like you said, Austrian economics is another one that really just shattered how I just viewed how the whole world works, really. And so I just had some trust in these people, and there was just enough uh, distrust toward authority and trust toward these weirdos on the internet that I just said, screw it, I'll give it a try. I was in Colombia at the time, and meat was really cheap. So me and my buddy I was traveling with said, let's give it a shot for a month and see what happens. Like hopefully we don't die, like you said, like because we're so just fear mongered about this our whole lives that meat is the worst thing ever. But we're so early, and you're in Mexico. I've spent time in Mexico and Latin America as well. The fact that we think we're early to carnivore in America, speaking for myself, like we're like early for Mexico and Latin America,
yeah,
because these people aren't quite as tuned in to the zeitgeist of social media trends and things. From my experience, usually it's kind of a separate social media atmosphere. I mean, there's obviously the language barrier. You have different influencers over there than we have in the U.S., but people in the U.S. are starting to really question everything, just because we've seen so many things go awry, and it's just like kind of a naturally chaotic environment up there. So there's more nonsense being pushed out, but there's also more truth seekers really becoming empowered and coming out. You're getting more of every side, and I think that a lot of the Latin American countries are sort of not really plugged into that yet. Would you agree?
yeah, I totally agree. Actually, it's very very conservative here. There's a lot of appeal to authority. For example, doctors here in Mexico, at least, like especially amongst the older population, they're still more like this. Like the doctor knows everything. Like whatever he says is he knows. He studied. He spent 7 years medicine becoming general practitioner at 7 years of med school, and they say he knows everything. So like I trust him. So that honestly has kind of helped me in a way as well, because like people, especially I've seen the older people are the ones who trust me and actually do the carnivore diet more frequently than the younger ones. But yeah, unfortunately, we've always been taught since we were children. Authority, authority, authority. They're the ones we don't question. Like in the United States, I feel like it's more of this rebellious type culture, and there's order and chaos, and that's why I think the USA is like, it's doing really good with nutrition. Well, I mean the people who are against nutrition here in Mexico. Like I think I am the first Mexican doctor speaking about this on YouTube, because there's other channels who speak about it, but they're like from Colombia, Spain. So like we're so early, so early. There's like 130 million people in Mexico, and I'm the first doctor to apparently talk about this on social media. So we're so early, so early.
Well, I've been diving through the carnivore diet like a maniac, and you're definitely the only one I found from Mexico. So, from what I've been able to find, that's definitely you. So that's an exciting front to be on. The pioneering for your country, like that's a really really cool deal. And as I'm sure you know better than anyone, Mexico needs it just as much as any of these countries, because the time that I spent in Mexico is mostly around Cancun. I have a buddy that runs like a co-living, co-working house there. So I know it's not the best representative of the whole country. It's sort of Americanized. But when
Yeah,
I would go walking around and just doing my long walks and just listening to podcasts like I do, walking on a boardwalk by the ocean, uh, all that I see is people everywhere eating Takis, these little seed oil
yeah,
chips. They're very popular in Mexico. There's freaking
yeah,
billboards with Takis on them, and just sugar water. Sugar water and Takis are basically what I see to be the standard Mexican diet, which is close,
yeah.
not that far off from the standard American diet. We really just have traded. Uh, in America, we love the burgers with the big buns and the pizza with dough and the sandwich bread. Mexico basically just trade all that for a lot of tortillas, and
Yeah,
it's still
exactly.
just all carbs. It's just a switch of the carb source and a bunch of seed oils on top. And like all the taco places you go to are using seed oils. There's practically zero education about how bad vegetable oil is in Mexico. Is that what you've seen as well?
Yeah. We Mexicans love to deep fry everything, like flautas, tacos de canasta. You just grab, you get a bunch of carbs, put some meat, a lot of fat, carbs, and then you deep fry with seed oils, and that's like a very very common thing. So like, and you can see like United States, Mexico, there's like a percentage wise, it's very similar in obesity rates, overweight in children. Like there's so many overweight children, diabetes, and it's just very sad. But there's hope. There is hope, and I see it with both Bitcoin and the carnivore diet. Now I'm hoping, like we mentioned earlier, I'm hoping if they get into the carnivore, at least maybe that will eventually lead some to Bitcoin, because our currency is also, well, it's a developing country currency, although it was performing pretty well against the dollar before the Mexican elections, and then it crashed a bit. But yeah, it's not a good coin to be in. Like I went to the store the other day, 10% inflation already on products, like things that were 10% cheaper, like just like a month or two ago, aren't just overnight switched. And like inflation is eating on anyone and on everyone's pocket. So these are things we have to get out. We have to get them out, and we have to get started. And I'm hoping I can like jumpstart this movement here in Mexico. I don't know how. Like I'm a young guy. I have a lot of ideas, but not much experience. So let's see where it goes.
Yeah, and like we were talking about before the show, a couple of things there. One is, I've had a bunch of doctors on the podcast who are very experienced. Like my most recent one was Robert Kilt, who's been in this for his whole life. And I'm sure that him, Anthony Chafee, Ken Berry, all these guys would look at a guy like you and say, it's a good thing that you haven't spent 20 years just being brainwashed by incorrect information. We need more people like this who are fresh and more of a problem solving mind, like a direct anecdotal evidence following actual real human beings rather than just blindly reading textbooks, because those have been corrupted so long ago that they're worse than useless at this point. They're giving people the incorrect information that's actually getting more people stuck on drugs and unhealthy. So, I mean, it's really cool to see. I mean, you're one of the first like young doctors I've seen out there really coming after this, because you're in your 20s, and there's so few people who are really in that position that have the knowledge to make a difference. And as we both agree, carnivore diet's a huge piece of that. I have a bunch of friends from college who are also in their late 20s in the medical field now, and they're still kind of just trying to keep up with it all. You can tell that they're just, I mean, the medical school is such a grind and just beats you down so hard, and probably intentionally so. I don't know how. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It sure seems like it's trying to just beat the life out of them, so they just have no choice but to just take the tests and just spit out the correct words to the patient that you need more drugs. Um, but
That's actually very true. Oh, so,
yeah,
yeah, that's very true. Even in Mexico, it's almost like a military level type of. They discipline you. They teach you your place. Like if you speak out against the doctor who's giving the class, like oh, you're wishing for like the worst. So you from the very beginning they teach you to respect authority. I remember telling they would tell me like if you don't know what to do, check out the guidelines. They're like your god, like check out how to get the diagnosis and what to give. Like don't question it. If you question that, then you're saying science is lying to us. Well, what they don't know, a lot of doctors don't know, is how the science is conducted. The observational studies, like it's like the worst, not pretty much the worst type of studies you can make to reach conclusions. Like you can make associations, you can perhaps say, look, it looks like this could cause this thing, but you cannot reach conclusions based on these type of studies. Yet they tell us that the guidelines based on these observational studies are law. You have to follow them, and they always tell you like. You should always, when you have a patient and he has certain diagnosis, give this type of treatment because it'll protect you legally. Because if there are problems, the patient can sue you, and if you follow the guidelines, then you're free. You know, like, nothing's going to happen to you. But if you decide to do something different, then you could be in a world of trouble. So I have the advantage. Yeah, I'm young, so I can stand on the shoulder of giants. So like I can learn from what they've learned, not go through the same mistakes, perhaps, and perhaps start from a better starting point. And I hope this will help with my journey through this. I would love to form a community. I am forming a community here in Chihuahua. We've already had like 3 different separate sessions. Like we get together in a cafe and we're like little conspiracy theorists, basically, talking about carnivore diet, how it works. I already had an open event where it was open for the people in the neighborhood. New people came. You tell them this information, and you can see how their eyes open, like, oh my god, like, can this be true? And like, it's not that they were convinced, but you can see like something in their mind breaks, like they really get curious about it. I think that's what I'm after, like at least plant the seed of doubt into like what they think is the optimal diet for them. And I think that's something to aim for.
And like you said, just like Bitcoin, the reason why people fall into the carnivore diet and their whole life is just shaken up and they just go down this huge rabbit hole is because it just makes sense once you do the basic research on it. And because humans, we've gotten so much brainwashing over the years about what we're supposed to believe, about the ways that we're supposed to feel about certain subjects, but there was never really a common sense foundation to it. We always sort of just followed the storylines and the agendas that were given to us. But now that we're fed these things, like Austrian economics was an example you gave, when you put it next to Keynesian economics and you really read the Bitcoin Standard by Safety, which is, I think, the best book out there, everyone needs to read on this, you just start to realize, holy crap, like all these things I've seen on TV, on the news of the government, just creating all these bills, spending all this money, it kind of just like, went right over our head. Like, oh, I'm sure it's, it's good for people. It's a good cause. I support that cause. So it's a good thing they're printing money for it. And no one really understands how inflation works or anything. They kind of just think it's part of, the deal, that we have to just deal with it. But then when you dive into Austrian economics and learn about how it used to be on a gold standard and there was no inflation, in fact, your money gained value over time, and that was just natural, and people's lives improved as the goods and services improved, and like humanity just upgraded over time, you start to think, oh my gosh, like everything we've grown up on is just a total lie. And the thing that makes carnivore more difficult is that while everyone's thinking about it more, so they're more primed to, people eat every day. They don't read economics textbooks every day is what I'm trying to say. So they have experience with this thing. However, they also have a very emotional connection to this thing. Mm-hmm. They really feel emotional about the food that they eat, especially the people that really care about being healthy, because they've read all these things for their whole life saying that I need to eat lots of salad and fruit and whole grains, and fat is bad for you, meat is bad. So they've really built an identity around, I am the healthy person and I'm avoiding meat because it's bad for me. So it's like an attack on one's identity when you tell them anything different. So it's even though it's right there, they're putting food in their mouth every day, so it should be easy to intervene and help them find a better way. It's harder because they have built such a connection to that. And I'm sure you see it with your patients as well, that it takes a lot to break through that barrier.
Oh, it definitely does. You really have to it's multiple sessions actually. Like you just put some, like what I do initially, I give them like a general talk. Then I give them some metabolic studies that they can do. Like, okay, take these studies, send me the results, and if they're altered, which most of the times they are, because Mexicans are not very healthy metabolically speaking. And that's what looks like. So once they see that they're not okay in their lab tests, like I ask for steric insulin, C-peptide, things that aren't usually asked for in your general medical practice. They see that it's altered. They come back in, and it's like I can feed them a bit more of information. I think like little by little, you can't like change someone's mind and way of thinking overnight. Plus, what you say about people not wanting to change because they've already invested so much time. I forgot the name of that type of fallacy. But it's like when you commit so much time to something that you just don't want to change your mind because you spent your whole life around it. It's your, like you mentioned, it's your identity. So, but honestly, like I think that's why the desperate people are the ones more willing to change because they see it's not working. Like, yeah, they could have heard, they could have seen doctors and people talk about the supposed healthy way of eating, but if they feel like crap, if they've tried that, like there's already some doubt there, like something's not working. Am I dysfunctional? And they make you think that you're just dysfunctional or that that's normal. Like it's normal to be obese with hypertension, diabetes when you're like 60 years old or earlier. And that's why these people are the ones who I think change are more willing to accept to try a carnivore type diet. And I tell my patients like there's like the three, well, in my opinion, there's the three pillars of health are basically number one, it's your diet. That's the number one thing, the thing that will impact you the most. And I think the thing you have most control over. And then in second place, I actually have both sleeping well and exercise, but not everyone can, if you're like severely obese, you're going to have a hard time doing exercise, but you can change your diet first. And maybe you have sleep apnea and you just can't sleep well, so like you can fix your diet first. Once you fix your diet, you will be able to move again. You'll be able to sleep better. And then your health will only exponentially increase after that. So it's just explaining them. What I'm trying to say is it's step by step. That's what I try to do. Like one thing at a time, one thing at a time, one thing at a time. And then they start seeing results. You've seen it yourself, I guess, or with other people. You like month into carnivore, I think a lot of people already start to experience a lot of changes, positive changes. Sure, there's some negative effects that could happen sometimes, but for the most part, there's a lot of positive. And that
temporary ones, like you're probably talking about like the weird poops that pretty much everyone
diarrhea.
gets. Like I definitely had that. I know I heard on your Sean Baker podcast you had the same thing, but it's temporary stuff. It's when your gut is completely changing what you're eating, there's going to be some side effects during that transitionary period.
Yeah, oxalate dumping, for example. These are things that can happen. So, but you explain to them so they know what to expect because you don't want them blaming the diet for like, oh my god, this is causing such a terrible problem. No, it's temporary and it's solvable. So, like they do this, they start feeling better, and it's like a snowball effect. So they just get into it, and then because what I do is I try to get them into keto first. Very few people will actually try carnivore. Only the most desperate I've seen try carnivore. Although I tell them to transition slowly, but some of them are just so desperate that I'm going to do it right now. I try to tell them, but it's just the desperation. But anyways, keto works best because your Mexican just loves adding things to their food, salsas, onions, tomato, jalapenos. So I have to adapt it to our Mexican way of eating, which is what I've seen has helped me a lot with my channel because I see comments saying like, finally a Mexican doctor, someone who like can understand our way of life, our way of eating. So like I dial it down to keto, Mexican keto, I guess I'll call it. And that gets the foot in the door. And then they eventually start carnivore. So that's amazing.
Yeah. And it's funny you mention that because I've definitely seen that, especially all across Latin America, is that it doesn't matter if you go to like the best steakhouse you can find. I'm always looking for these places where I'm able to eat out, and they always add things onto it. It's like impossible to find just a clean steak that's cooked in healthy fats, not seed oils, and have no seasoning or anything. And so I've sort of done the same as you. If I know people are interested in going in the right direction, I say, okay, like feel free to season it, but just be aware that these are just ground up plants, often very full of oxalates. Like it is often like the most toxic part of the plant is going into seasoning. So try to work your way there. Take steps, like you said, because not everyone's willing to take the full heave into it. So some people just need to ease a little more. And like you said, there's certain things that have people in such a desperate situation. And it's funny, in your story, you mentioned IBS and migraines being your issue and your wife's issue. Those are two, like digestive problems and mental problems are two of the things I see from my research, listening to tons of testimonials on this. People see them just alleviate super quickly and very consistently. Those are just plant problems, because in the IBS, you may be able to put a little bit more meat on his bone than me, but IBS oftentimes is just the fact that you're eating indigestible plant fiber, and it's just clogging your whole system up. And people, I don't know if you've heard of this guy named Kent Carnivore on YouTube, but he had, I think it was Crohn's disease or ulcerative
Mhm.
colitis, one of the IBD sides. And he had a colostomy bag added and his colon removed because it got so bad. And what he started doing was just self experiments of just eating different things and seeing what came out in the bag. And he saw clear as day when he ate any sort of meat or animal products, nothing came out in the bag or a little bit of liquid maximum. And then he would eat a piece of pineapple, a piece of broccoli, lettuce, like literally any plant, and it would just come out untouched. It still had the bite marks in it in the bag. Like your body did zero breaking down of this plant matter. It's not even food. This is like people still are calling these things food, but I don't think they haven't even earned that. These
Your
are
body doesn't want it.
not the human body doesn't want anything to do with it. So it's just mind blowing, and I think that's a really great story that I've been sharing with people because I know there are a bunch of people out there dealing with digestive issues and mental issues. I feel like if you put those two together, that's a huge percentage of the global population that's having something on one of those ends. And I didn't really cover the mental side, but the reason why so many people fix their mental issues so quickly with this diet is because it's so often just plant toxins that are just screwing up their brain chemistry. The plants have defense chemicals in them that are very well evolved to prevent predators from eating it, and they produce psychoactive effects that are negative for us. And that's where we get the depression, the anxiety, the ADHD, and even dementia and things that Dr. Chafee calls just type 4 diabetes or whatever it is,
Type
because
3, yeah.
type 3 it's literally just a reaction of those defense chemicals screwing your brain chemistry, a lack of fat because your brain needs fat. If you're not getting a lot of fat, which most people who are eating plant-based diets are not getting very much fat, they think it's bad for you. So their brain is starving for the fat, it's getting attacked by the defense chemicals, and you're dumping sugar on top because every single plant, the part that does break down just turns into sugar. So, and that's I think Dr. Kiltz is the one that really enlightened me on that, how every fruit, vegetable, grain, like all the plants just break down to sugar. So like you're just feeding more sugar into your brain, which is going to cause dementia. It's going to cause type 1 and 2 type. I guess you have to be born with type 1 diabetes. It's cause type 2 diabetes, all sorts of freaking problems. So it's just really wild when you think of it that way, that the carnivore diet is really just like the meat itself isn't, a magical healing tool. It's just real food. You're removing the poison that's causing all the problems and just going down to what the baseline should be. Like the food shouldn't be like a magical healing serum. It should just be giving you nutrients and you're just avoiding the toxic stuff that everyone's eating now. It's that simple.
Yeah, it is. And gut health is mental health. Like 80-90% of your serotonin and dopamine are produced in the gut and they get transported up to your brain. And like your brain is just 2% of your body weight, but it has like 20-25% of all of your body's cholesterol. Like it's that important to have fats, cholesterol as well in your diet, because that's what your brain is basically. It's like 60% fat. It's needed. And those people who deprive themselves, and that's probably the reason why a lot of these people, like people who take statins, can suffer through dementia, because there's statins that can go through the blood-brain barrier. And you know what statins do? They inhibit the formation of cholesterol. So like there's a transitory dementia that occurs to people who are on statins, and then you just eliminate the statins and the dementia goes away. So like it's just amazing how much they've brainwashed us to think that cholesterol is bad. And the thing is, like the American Heart Association themselves, like since I think 2016, they stopped adding max recommended amounts of saturated fat and cholesterol in the diet. But they didn't say anything. They didn't make it go public. They just silently stopped recommending these things. So like even these associations who were pushing this initially to limit fat intake and cholesterol are no longer recommending it in their guidelines. So I think it's slowly transitioning. Like I see it like I see like the first generation of like these carnivore-ish type people, like Dr. Salisbury, Warburg, these Dr. Atkins. I think I see them as like the first generation low carb docs, and then I see Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Ken Berry as like the new wave, and then us more younger docs who are seeing these guys and like, okay, let's get this started, let's do it. And I think it's like, again, it's like a snowball effect. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and I don't think you can hide the truth, because I tell my patients, because I tell them, you will receive criticism. You will be eating this diet, you'll be in this diet, and then you'll be getting better, and then people from the outside will look at you, and they always tell me, like, I always get this comment, doc. They tell me, do you have cancer? Like, are you sick? Are you going to die? Like, no, because I tell them, these people out there are so accustomed to seeing fat, sick people that when suddenly one person gets better, they see that as pathological, and then they're like crabs in a bucket. They try to pull you back down. And I'd also tell them, like, but look at these people who are criticizing you. How do they look? Do they look healthy? Are they fit? Are they strong? Are they sleeping well? And most of the time it's no. It's like, you're doing great. But I think this is also why it's important to form this community, because if you're just alone in this, you will receive doubts. You will begin to question yourself. But if you see other people who continue to do great, who have recovered their life, their health, you seem more motivated. It just reassures you that, okay, no, I'm doing the right thing. Because at the end of the day, humans are social animals. We do need the group, but it's a kind of rare thing, in my opinion, to see individuals go against the tide. Like, but if we can create a little community, it just attracts more and more and more people eventually. And yeah, so I'm working towards.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I talked about with Nina Teicholz on an earlier episode, she's the author of The Big Fat Surprise, is, as you mentioned, the guidelines are slowly being walked back as they realize that people are getting so sick from this that they kind of have to save their own ass. But they're never going to come out and just come clean and say, we're sorry, we gave you the complete opposite advice for the last 50 years that we should have. Everything that we said was a lie, and here's how we can fix it. They just very quietly change things. And this is so in line with the way that the sort of bureaucratic class up top operates, is that they really just care about their own reputation and power. They don't care about you. They don't care about us. We're just like the cattle to them. And so this is the most important time in history for everyone to really take full personal responsibility, be open to self-experimentation, really figuring out what works well for your body. And as I think you and I have both found, is that, dang, it seems like this crazy all meat diet is really just helping the most people the most consistently become the healthiest version of themselves that they can. And so right now we're still in a zone where only the people that have a bit of desperation to fix health problems are the ones finding it. I think there are more and more people that are just realizing, I mean, they can come from any angle. People can just distrust authority in some other place, and they'll realize that they need to just completely rethink their lives and start from first principles. So that's an exciting trend to watch, and a reason why Bitcoiners and carnivores so closely intertwined, because they're both on that same path. And I think this would be a good time, speaking of self-sovereignty and just being on your own path and like protecting your own content and your own feeling of what's best for you. We mentioned Nostr earlier, and I think that this is a great piece to pull into this puzzle we're building as we're discussing how people really need to think more self-sovereignty minded. So what is Nostr, Dr. Morales? Could you give us a little bit of an overview on what this weird decentralized social media thing is?
So I think it means like notes and other stuff. That's like the technical stuff.
Notes and other stuff transmitted by relays.
Yeah, I'm not very technical about it, so I'm not a coder. So I just self-learn as much as I can. But
I just listened to my podcast with Derek yesterday to get ready, so that's the reason why I remember that.
Oh, I'll definitely listen to that one. Cool, the Derek Ross, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
He's the man.
Well, check out that episode, guys, if you guys want to know exactly what it is. But basically, the way I see it, it's a decentralized social media platform. But I think that's putting it shortly. From what I understand, it can become so many other things, not just social media. You can build on top of a protocol. It's like a protocol besides the internet or alongside the internet. So it has so much potential. But right now, it's basically used as an alternative social media, and you can't be censored. Like, you create an account anywhere in the world, you have it's an identity that's it's tied to you. There's no third party involved. Like, YouTube can take down all the Carnivore content one day if they decided, and you're gone. Same thing with Twitter, Facebook, everywhere, and you just shut out of the world like that. So Nostr is like this fantastic alternative to, like, because even these supposed alternative media, like Blue Sky, or like, there's like a lot of different
There've been a
even
lot
though
of attempts to do it for sure. Yeah.
yeah, they still have a point of failure, which is that they're centralized. Like, there's an entity behind it, and if they get taken down, it's over. With Nostr, you can be anywhere in the world, and your content is completely safe. You own your own content, and the best part is you can get receive value directly. Like, people, there's something called Zaps, which is basically people send Bitcoin over to you, Satoshis, and you can just publish your content and receive value immediately. No third party, no processing through PayPal or waiting or arguing through customer support. It's just so liberating, and you can do whatever you want. Of course, I guess moderation is something that's still being discussed in Nostr, because I honestly don't know the levels of freedom in there involved. But I know that, at least for things like Carnivore, like, that's not going to get censored at all. You're free to speak about that completely, and that's a powerful tool. And the way I see it is that it's a great place to start with Carnivore, because you have people already more open minded. Like, you got a lot of Bitcoiners there, or just simply freedom minded individuals. Maybe they're not Bitcoiners, but they have a more freedom orientation. So, like, presenting Carnivore to them is just a great way to get more people on board. And like I keep on saying, it's a snowball effect. The bigger it grows, the harder it is to stop. So I think that's an important place to be if you are freedom minded, and if you have ideas that actually go against the status quo.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned how there have been so many other attempts at decentralized social media in the past. I remember during my shitcoin phase before Bitcoin, I saw those things everywhere. It's like, oh, this is the decentralized social media with this token. And, you try them all and they're all just garbage. They don't work very well and you just forget about it after a while. But this one is different in the sense that it has been built to very closely replicate the way that Bitcoin actually was emerged. It's decentralized from the start in a way that people use relays in the same way that people use Bitcoin nodes. So it's decentralized right out of the gate, where you can have your own relay, which is just a server, and you can just post all of your content on that server. And the servers are, and I don't want to get too technical either because I'm stupid. Just go back to my episode with Derek. But basically, it's an unwinnable whack-a-mole game for any censoring entities trying to stop you. There is no, board of truth like Instagram has, where if I post a meme about the debt being extremely high and how it's hilarious that they're telling us to be financially responsible. Like a week ago, I posted that and it got taken down, and I get this big warning when anyone follows my page. It says, "Be careful. This person posts, misinformation."
Wow.
Literally, just for making fun of how big the debt is, and just like these centralized platforms are just not a good long-term solution, because there's always going to be that fear in the back of your head of, like, is my work here really going to last, or is it just going to get rug pulled on me? And I remember, I think so many of us that really get deep in the weeds on Instagram or X, uh, we have that in the back of our mind, like, man, like, should I even post this? Should I even say this on YouTube? Because maybe my whole channel will get taken down. And then you have to do this arithmetic in your head, like, how much do I help people without risking, helping them too much and getting, censored? The reason why Nostr is such a huge deal is it gives people a voice that they know can never be taken away. There's no censorship, or it's censorship resistant, which is, it makes it impossible for anyone to ban you from a platform, because there isn't a platform. It's just a protocol like the internet. So that's why I've been sprinkling it around to all the doctors I've been talking to. I think I threw it at Chafee. I threw it at Stephanie
Or
Rimka. I just I've been dropping the seeds,
yeah.
but most of these doctors have like a big platform on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter, and they're really dug in there. And they, like we've said before, like the Bitcoiners who are more open minded and come to Carnivore, I know that they have the same brain that's open minded to trying new things everywhere. So it's all about just presenting that use case and the proposition for why this new era of carnivore doctors and doctors who want to get people off drugs and heal them the way we should be, to understand that this is an amazing tool to help them do that. So could you maybe present a case to any of the medical professionals out there, the doctors that could be listening to this and are wondering, like, why do I need another social media to juggle? Like, what does that do for me?
Okay, so like if we're talking about incentives, 'cause, economic incentives is a very powerful one. So one of them is you have a first mover's advantage. Like right now, as far as I know, there's no carnivore doctor, Bitcoiner, Nostr user. So if Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Camberry, Dr. Kiltz can get on Nostr, they already have a huge following. Like they could blow up. Like and you can see they would receive value directly, and those satoshis that they receive, they will only accrue value over time. So if you don't spend them, you just leave them there. It's just amazing amounts of wealth. There's people who will zap you 10,000 satoshis. Like you can imagine that being worth the equivalent of $10,000 today. Just like that, you receive it. So the economic incentive is, that's what I see. It's like a startup basically. If you get in there early, if you find your niche, you have so much potential. Even if you think there's like no more, you can't compete in YouTube with certain topics. Well, in Nostr, it's the Wild West basically right now. So that's one thing. Secondly, I think you can reach a lot of people. Like I said, there's so many like-minded individuals, and the more people we get into the cause, the bigger this snowball gets. So like I think that's a no-brainer. If you want to reach people, Nostr is a fantastic way to do it because everyone there is so supportive. It's a huge community. And there's things like Nostr conferences, Bitcoiner conferences. Like you can get to know so many like-minded individuals as well. Will only help promote your message even further. So I think it's more of a long-term strategy than a short-term. Yeah, like Anthony Chafee, for example, he will earn much more through his YouTube videos and what he does there than on Nostr. But I think the impact
In
you
the
can
beginning, I
create,
would say, like as a
yeah,
start for sure. But
exactly, in the beginning. But over time, I think Nostr will only become a bigger thing. Jack Dorsey himself says that Nostr looks basically like how Twitter was in the very, very beginning. So there's a lot of big pocketed individuals as well investing in Nostr. It's not like some random startup with very little funding. No, it's basically like Bitcoin, but already has like a boost, because there's already Bitcoiners in there. They understand it, so it's like not completely starting from zero. So it's just, I think it's going to take off in the next, I don't know, 5 years, maybe even sooner. So like honestly, that's what I see. It's the economic incentive long term, and the fact that you can reach so much more people and influence. Because I think that's what matters the most. Because you don't need to change 50% of population's mind to create change. Sometimes just 5%, 10%. But like strategic people, like if you get to know enough people who can have enough influence over other people, you can create this change. And I think these people are on Nostr, because if we see where Bitcoin's going, it's going to go huge. So there's going to be like a wealth transfer. The Bitcoiners right now might be the wealthy millionaires, billionaires of today, but in the future, like 10, 20 years from now, they will have economic power to create change, influence. So you can become friends with them right now. In the future, like these people can like really reach millions of other people, because like we've mentioned before, people have things to do in their lives. They're not going to think about food. They're not going to think about money, especially in Mexico, where like a lot of people are living day to day, and they're not going to think about a lot of these things. But if they hear something in the news, if they hear some influencer they hear on YouTube in the future, hopefully Nostr, talk about something, they're more willing to be open-minded to this. So if you can get into the hearts of these influencers who I think are on Nostr now, the future influencers are on Nostr, I think you can create that change.
absolutely, and as you mentioned, it's quickly growing because more and more people are realizing that the censorship problem from big tech on social media is a huge problem. It's going to come after you eventually. It doesn't matter, where you are politically or in your opinions. There's going to come a day where you want to say something, but you either stop yourself because you're afraid it'll get you banned, or you just get shadow banned, or one of these other tricks pulled by these platforms that just manipulate the conversation. Um, but one thing that everyone on there has in common, even as it's grown a lot over the last several months, when I first did my first Nostr podcast with Derek, I think it was like 5 months ago or something like that, maybe 4 to 6 months ago, something like that. It was pretty much all Bitcoiners. It was just
Yeah.
Bitcoin nerds on there. And since then, we've seen a huge influx of people from all over the place. It's been, a bunch of TikTokers said, screw TikTok. There's all these like legal things going on. They're trying to ban it. And think people are getting censored really bad. And it seems like the more important things that you talk about, the more that you get banned.
Mm.
So people that are waking up, improving their health, for our example, and wanting to share that and getting excited and putting more and more out, it's like the more stopped down you are from being able to produce that content. So Nostr is the perfect solution. They're all flooding over, and all of these people are coming from all different walks of life, from all over the world, but they're all very open-minded to, what can I learn now that I'm outside of this silo of censorship that has been preventing me from hearing certain things for all this time?
Yeah, I
Let's
actually
hear
think.
like everything.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. And another point regarding as why carnivore doctors should join Nostr, I see it as an insurance as well in the future. Like you mentioned, censorship. So that's important. But like, think about it. Civilizations of the past mostly rebel because of inflation in their food. Like food is what make people go crazy. If they can't afford food, that's when rebellions just basically happen. They can tolerate a lot of mistreatment in other regards, but food is like one of the things you can't touch. They need to have food. So seeing how much money has been printed by the Fed, basically, uh, inflation is going to happen, and it's going to be reflected on the food. So you can bet yourself that once food goes going crazy, the government's only crack down on the healthy foods because meat, like basically whole foods, are what go the highest in price. They're going to promote junk food, ultra processed food like crazy. So if you're out there promoting the carnivore diet, I'm pretty sure you're going to be one of the first people to get censored in the future. Once inflation hits the fan, the government's going to tie down as much as they can on food. So I think you get on Nostr, you can avoid all that. And if you start building your community right now, when that happens, you will already have a large following. People who are watching your videos right now will know, okay, Chafee got taken down. Well, he's always been talking about this Nostr there. I'll just look him up there. So I think it's instant insurance. It's an insurance for the future because it's very unsure right now. So that's another point I think is important to say.
That's a great point to add. And I think that a lot of us think of it that way as we're starting out, as this is sort of the backup plan if things really get bad. Because this is where I know that I can't have my account taken down or censored in any way. So it's good to have that there, but a lot of time, like the really nice user experience from Twitter and YouTube and Instagram, they're all really well ironed out because they've been around for a long time. And the centralization has given them a really streamlined, like good UX. So people enjoy using them. The algorithms have been built to like keep you addicted to it. So people are using it all the time. They're very used to it. And Nostr is a different thing. So it's hard to, the message I've been giving is basically have this as your backup plan for now. Just have this, just make one, write down your private key, and just in case you ever need it, it's there. And for myself personally, and probably you as well, the longer this just kind of sitting there in the background of being this like backup thing, the more you think like, man, this is going to be the future. So why am I even spending all this time and energy on Twitter when I know that I'm just a cog in this machine that they're really manipulating? They're changing the conversation very clearly. And I can see this just depending on the type of stuff I put up on Twitter. Are you on Twitter? Do you use Twitter as well, or are you off of that?
My other social media I only use to like publish my videos. I don't engage in it.
Mm.
The only social media I actually use actively is Nostr. Everything else is just to publish my content. But actually, you made an important point there. Like just by having Nostr, even if you don't really use it, just having it in the back of your mind, once you see how things unfold, like it makes you get more and more curious. It's like when you buy just some Bitcoin to see what it is. Like if you hold it, the more likely you are to learn about it because you want to know what you're holding. So I think the same thing with Nostr. Just create an account. Just create an account, keep it there, and you'll see that's with time you'll become more and more curious about it.
Yeah, you have to have skin in the game. That's what
Yeah,
it's all about. You need to
exactly.
start with some skin in the game. Just buy it, $10 of Bitcoin. Doesn't matter how much it is. It's going to make you care about it more and like actually have a reason to keep learning about it. And the same goes for Nostr. You just have to create an account and start, looking through the feed, just listening to people, and pretty soon you'll realize like, dang, these people are like fearlessly speaking the truth and being themselves too. Because I can't even be myself on Twitter, because if I just post some goofy song I'm listening to or a picture of like an adventure I'm doing in the city I'm living, it's not going to get as many likes as if I post like, hyper bullish, content on whatever stock is trending, for example, because, I'm in like the finance world. That's the way that you just get easy bazillions of views and impressions, is you just like take whatever's trending and you just post about it. And that's boring. Like it's not real. It's not human, you know? I want to be my real self, just post whatever I'm thinking in the moment on Nostr, and it gets way more engagement there, despite being a much smaller audience for now. It just, since there's no algorithm, you can really do whatever you want. And you talked about how carnivores will be the first ones in the crosshairs when things get really, really weird. And have you heard of the book Fiat Food by Matthew Leshak? I think I remember you mentioning that before, right?
Yeah, I bought it. I haven't gotten to it yet. I've heard a
Oh,
lot of. I've heard every podcast that he's
yeah.
been on talking
Mhm.
about it, but it's in my to read. It's actually the next book I want to read.
Perfect.
So yeah,
Because you touched on it right there. Like the government has all the incentives in the world to keep people eating crappy food because it hides the inflation better. That's what I talked about in my podcast with Matt, is that they are really in the same bed as big food and sugar and all these big pharma, of course. They're all working together here, and they're going to have all of the power over these centralized systems. So we need to decentralize now to prepare and protect ourselves from that inevitable future, which, I mean, I think it would take a miracle at this point for there to not be just a massive sledgehammer drop down on all the people trying to get people out of drugs and eating healthy, because that entire trifecta of evil cannot have that, speaking truth to power. And I think people like Sean Baker have even been completely suspended off of their accounts before. I think I remember talking to him. He talked about that on Twitter a while ago, how it's already happening. Like, just because they're big doesn't mean they can't be taken down. And one guy that I'm always looking at is Dr. Chafee, because he has a huge audience on Instagram and YouTube. And it would be just horrible if those just got axed, which is a non-zero possibility. There's so much content on there that's so helpful. If you read through the comment sections of any of his videos, it's thousands of people saying like, you saved my life, you made me healthier, I feel like I have my life back, and like everything has gotten better. And this is such a valuable thing to have out there, these doctors that are really giving real advice. And they need to have a place where they have a completely uncensorable voice to share their message with the world without fear. And that's what Nostr gives us.
yeah. Actually, I think we need to create these parallel societies. You can't take on the government directly. They're going to most likely destroy you. You can't take on big pharma. You can't take on the uh, big monopolies, basically. But you can build around them because they will inevitably collapse. Like they're on the dollar, basically. That's a currency that's bound to collapse eventually. Who knows when? They can keep this game going on for decades, most likely. But it's when you have this like parallel society, when your money is safe in Bitcoin, the work you put into what you do every day, you can save that time into the hardest asset in the world, Bitcoin. And then we have something like Nostr, where you can like know that your voice will never be censored because communication is essential. We're humans. If you have those two things going side by side, like when the hard times do come, because they will come eventually, you're already set up. You are ready to take on whatever challenge is coming. It won't be easy, obviously, but it's good to have this mentality. I would say, like you mentioned, it's the backup plan. You should totally have it. And this freedom you have in Nostr, I also feel it. Like in my Nostr account, I don't only publish or talk about the carnivore diet. I go into Austrian economics. I feel this freedom that I would not talk about in YouTube or Twitter, because I feel, first of all, the typical comment like, "Dude, you're just a doctor. Like, what are you doing talking about Austrian economics or Bitcoin? Like, Jesus." And no, like an Nostr, that just goes away, because almost everyone there knows about sound money. They know about nutrition. They know about. Of course, there's people who aren't. There, not everyone's a carnivore. Not everyone's a Bitcoiner on Nostr. You know, there's groups for everyone. There's vegans there. There's groups for all there. I think there's even like socialists and stuff like that. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
not all.
since the TikTok bans happened, we got a whole load of different kind of people. The TikTokers came in, and it's a true mix now of everything. I'm seeing people that are the complete opposite of my beliefs following me and still listening because they're curious. That's great.
Exactly.
I love that.
And it's amazing. Like truly, it's something revolutionary, I think. And if there's a if Chafee or Dr. Kamberi, anyone could get on, I think it'd be fantastic. I've heard Dr. Kamberi is planning on creating a different diabetes association type of thing. I heard him talk. He had an interview with Dr. Sean Baker. So he mentioned this. You're going to create a different society, but I honestly don't know how that's going to work. Like you're going up against government basically. But if you could create that on Nostr, I think that would be amazing. That'd be pretty
Yeah.
awesome. But you know, my best wishes to him. I really hope he can like create this counter current. But I think it's gonna be pretty hard. It's a uphill battle, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that like you put it really well. It's just playing in their arena, them being the big pharma, big food, big government. That is like basically as impossible of a final boss that you could try to challenge in their arena because they have all the power over the media, over the social media platforms. They have the infinite money printer. They can just create anything they want at no cost. You're going against a big beast if you're doing that. And if you're someone like Ken Berry who has a huge audience, even failure would help people, because you're putting the message out, and you're maybe waking some people up to how impossible it is to beat these people, how corrupt it is. That could get some wheels turning, but you don't need to go into that buzzsaw. You can like you said, you can create a parallel system that just works better and rewards the people that are helping educate on that side of things. So, in like we mentioned a couple of times now, if these big name doctors who are promoting the carnivore diet and are scared of being censored at some point down the line, if they come over to Nostr, they're going to immediately be welcomed with a huge boost of followers because people on those platforms will know these guys. They've heard of them, and their followers from their centralized platforms can follow them over to Nostr, and they'll have an immediate boost. And all these people will also be able to tip you in Bitcoin immediately. It's baked into all the main clients. Like you said, it's called Zaps. People can just send you Bitcoin when you post your videos. And people even still post YouTube video links on there. It's not like you can't still, share your content there from other platforms. Like if Chafee were to just make an account in 20 minutes and post his new videos on Nostr, he would immediately get paid in Bitcoin for that. And he would get paid a lot of Bitcoin, I bet. Like he would have a lot of people ready to just, reward him right out of the gate. So it's so little effort. It's so easy. It's basically only positives. You have your speech protected for the long term. You build an audience in a place where it can never be rug pulled. You're paid for your work right out of the gate for no extra work, just pasting the link in. There's just no downside to this. I really think that all of these people, especially the carnivore doctors out there that are really pushing this message, need to get on this. And I think that, we're just over an hour here. I think we could make this a good semi-short one because I think we covered a lot, and that's a great little bite-sized call to action for people. But why don't you wrap us up here with just why the people out there who are putting important messages out into the world, carnivore doctors specifically, as we've talked about, which you are one of the new wave. why do they really need to think about all these things we've talked about today, whether it be, understanding Bitcoin better, getting on Nostr, all of these new decentralized alternatives?
Okay, I think the moment these docs or people have decided to go against the status quo, you signed yourself up for something you probably don't really want, which is to be censored, to be cut off of the financial system. Because, for example, let's say Dr. Canberry's association gets big, like he could have his bank accounts frozen. Like if he becomes too much of a threat, you can solve that with Bitcoin. Like no one, it's your Bitcoin. It's your. If you know how to self custody your Bitcoin, like you can continue to get funded and use your funds to keep on going on with your campaign. If you have a Nostr, you cannot be silenced, and that makes you anti-fragile, basically. So, like, if you want to truly become anti-fragile, I think that is the way to go. If you see it as a backup plan, that's amazing. That's okay. I'm pretty sure with time you will begin to understand it more and more and more. And the more the world changes around you, the more you see how tyrannical things get around social media and governments. I think the more you will learn about these things. So you big carnivore docs, you guys have a huge influence. You have changed thousands, if not probably even millions of lives, because like your content is watched all around the world. And it would be a shame to see that disappear. So not just for yourself, to protect yourself, for you to continue helping other people, to promoting well-being, like do it for others as well. Like don't just protect yourself, do this to protect others, continue helping other people, because if people want to find something, they will find it. And it would be awesome if they find you in these type of platforms. So I guess that's what all I have to say. That's what I really hope this gets into people's these doctors' minds, at least, to get curious about it, and that would be a huge win for freedom, like huge.
Freedom, global health, free speech, like all of these things that we know the world needs more of can all be done. We have solutions right there that are waiting for us. We don't have to keep, flailing, looking for things. We've got Bitcoin fixing the money. It's removing the entire money printer from the equation, which we talked about is, the Death Star of this beast of corruption. And then we've got Nostr right alongside Bitcoin, giving people uncensorable free speech, ability to share their content with anyone, anywhere, anytime. And I just think those are two enormous tools for everyone, especially those who have the truth to tell and a big influence to share, like the people we mentioned. So I really hope they take some time to look at this. Also, read the Bitcoin Standard if you're a reader. We mentioned that. The Bitcoin Standard by Seyfedin and Moose will get you caught up on the whole money side. I don't think there's any Nostr books out there yet, but I did get a website domain, studynostr.com, that just points toward my huge list of learning resources. So I'll put that in the show notes. I'll put my first Nostr episode with Derek Ross in the show notes. And Dr. Fernando Morales, where can people find you to support your work?
You can find me on YouTube as at Fernando Morales MD, and there you have links to my other social media. On Nostr, which I would prefer you to follow me there as well. You can find me as Fernando Morales MD as well at nostrplebs.com. That's how you can find me. Or just Dr. Fernando Morales. I should show up. You can also put the hashtag Carnivore. I have a lot of content. A lot of that stuff is mine. So that's one way to find me. It's a niche. Like, honestly, you guys, there's so much potential to grow on Nostr. Like, anyone is welcome. Like, you have random content, get on there. Anyways, send me a message and I'll zap you. If it's your first time on Nostr, I really want to promote people coming on here. So, and I do plan on making my YouTube channels in Spanish, but I do plan on making Nostr exclusive content in English. So look forward to that.
I love it, and I'm really glad that there is now a Spanish speaking influencer out there talking about this stuff, because I've been traveling through South America and Mexico myself, and a lot of these people could really use that right now. When I give them all the English speaking stuff, there's a slight disconnect there. It's kind of like coming from a different world in a way. When these people are hearing someone speaking their language, understanding their culture, like you said, like understanding like where they're coming from, that's so powerful and super important. So huge kudos for that. I'm looking forward to you being the Dr. Chafee of Mexico very soon. We're going to make it happen.
I hope so.
Only up from here, my friend. I'm so excited to watch your trajectory continue because we need more people like you, and the world appreciates it, man. So
Thanks.
thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll be in touch, sir.
All right, Ben. See ya.